We're going to call this meeting to order. This is good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Board of Adjustments. Today's date is March 6th and the time is 6 o'clock. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and the minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask all those present to turn off their cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet on the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures that the board will follow tonight. First, the board will handle normal housekeeping agenda items. Then each application on the agenda, I will open a public hearing on them, or one will be opened on them. The planning and zoning staff will then present the staff report, including staff recommendations. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be then entered into the record. The applicant will then have an opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with all your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by a motion and a vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the board. The board shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the board. The board will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any board member who has an ex parte communication with the public to place into the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of deliberation of the respective agenda item. Any person desiring to appeal the board's decision to the court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of this decision with the Planning and Zoning Office. With that, the first agenda item is, since this is the first meeting that we've had this year, we need to make a motion to select a new chair or an acting chair. Is that typical?
Yeah, I have to do that. It's essentially your term ended December 31st.
I'm done.
Yeah.
All right.
You're halfway now.
So we need to make a motion.
Somebody just to run the meeting to get through.
Run the meeting to get to the meeting?
Exactly.
Okay. We need a motion to select an acting chair to proceed from this point.
I'll make a motion to nominate Bob Roulette to serve as acting chair.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So the second agenda item is the nomination and election of the 2017 chairperson and chair vice person. So we'll look for nominations on that.
Nominate you again.
Separately or together? Separately, so we're looking for a chair.
It's been moved and seconded.
Oh, I missed that.
That you're in the running.
Okay. And then for multiple nominations, you do the first one then?
I guess you could ask if you've already had a first and second. I think you asked, and that's asked if anybody else wanted to be nominated.
Well, I'd like to nominate Katie, I think, be appropriate. And ask for a second.
She's in denial.
So in the lack of a second, close now the motion will rest there. So we'll have a vote on the first motion of, I guess, myself for chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That sounds like a railroad. So then we'll go for the nomination and election of the vice chairman. We're looking for a motion or a
Vice chair.
nomination.
You weren't beginning for that motion.
As long as Bob is doing so, I'm happy to advise.
Nominate you for vice.
I'll second it.
We have a nomination for Katie and a second. So any other motions or nominations? So we'll make just vote on that, I guess. All those in favor of Katie as the vice chairman for the 2017.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
You abstain.
So we don't have to do any musical chairs.
No, and you should stay.
All righty. Third item is the approval of the board minutes from the meeting of November 7th, 2016. You've had a chance to review them. Any comments or notes on that?
I think I might have maybe one correction to make on page 6 of the minutes, in the third sentence, or third paragraph. The very last word, in fact, I was wondering if "not" should be in that sentence. Mr. Martinaro puts a lot of weight in not following the setback ordinances, and
And following.
yeah,
Delete not.
my understanding would be to delete the "not."
That sounds right to me.
That change would be consistent with this letter that he provided us.
Okay.
Okay. So we have that correction as noted. Any other corrections or notices on there? I have to say I read through it and I didn't even catch that one. Okay, so we need a motion to approve the minutes as presented
I vote to approve.
I'll second.
with the corrections,
Subject to-
subject to the corrections. We have a motion to approve the minutes as with the corrections. All those in favor?
Aye.
All the same, opposed, same sign? Motion's carry. Number 4, hearing of any person on any non-agenda item.
I have that on here twice. 4 and 6 are the same thing.
Pardon me?
Aren't items 4 and 6 the same thing?
Yeah, so we do it, so
Oh,
people want to
okay.
sit through the whole meeting
Oh.
here now.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in the audience that has anything that's not related to the conditional use permit for Leroy and Amanda McRoberts? So we can move on off of that one. Make a check mark. Agenda item number 5, receive zoning commission recommendations, which we have, and a public hearing in reference to an application for a conditional use permit for property owners Leroy and Amanda McRoberts for a home occupation use truck terminal operations. Or staff report on that.
I'm not going to read the entire staff report, but I will hit the high points. We've provided each of you with copies of exactly what will go into the record. We've supplemented the list of attachments tonight. We've provided you with a copy of the home occupation use list out of the ordinances, as well as a copy of the signed letter from the chairman of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission relative to their review and recommendation on this agenda item. Leroy and Amanda McRoberts are applying for a conditional use permit to continue the use of a trucking operation out of a parcel on the north side of 210th Street. It's the same parcel in which they live. They have in the past operated that trucking business under the home occupation rules, and it's been very difficult for them to meet one of the tests because of the size and nature of tractor-trailer units. Basically, the test that has been most difficult for them to meet is number 4 on the list, and it, in essence, deals with the visibility of vehicles. In the McRoberts case, vehicles would include employee vehicles as well as the tractor-trailer units themselves. They can be visible from the right-of-way or from other parcels. In essence, that fact disqualifies them for the conditional use under the old ordinances. In March of 2016, the ordinance were amended for home occupation use truck terminals, which in essence deletes the requirement number 4 for them meeting the test. It also provided them with an opportunity to come before you today in a conditional use permit, and based upon the remaining facts of their particular instance, ask for a permit to continue operation of the truck terminal. The McRoberts parcel is zoned Ag Estates. I referenced you to page 32, which is in your package, showing that conditional use is a permitted testing vehicle now under the ordinances. This parcel is also known as Lot 3 of Hinkle Edition. That's a 4-lot subdivision that was subdivided back in 2009. 3 of the existing lots have single-family dwellings on them, and they're occupied. The 4th lot is sold to a party, and we're expecting permitting to be issued on that parcel within the next year. The applied for use is on a gross acre lot of 2.5 acres, address 1483 210th Street, Sergeant Bluff. It's in the southeast of section 28 of Woodbury Township. Location-wise, it's on the north side of the hard surface, 210th Street, which is a farm to market roadway, properly designed and constructed for heavy truck traffic. It's approximately 0.6 of a mile east of Sergeant Bluff and 0.6 of a mile west of the intersection of 210th Street and Elk Creek Road. In essence, the application specifically asks for the following: the establishment of a 40 by 75 foot or 0.07 of an acre outdoor area adjacent to the eastern side of an existing accessory structure, and that within that 0.07 of an acre, the McRoberts be permitted to park up to 3 tractor trailer units, and that in addition to that, within that same area, up to 3 of the trailers may operate refrigeration units when necessary. We've given you area mapping relative to the items that I've just stated. I think it's important here to give you a perspective of the neighborhood in regard to the distance of this 40 by 75 foot area to other occupied structures, and I kind of want to go through that in each direction. To the north, it's 110 feet to the adjacent property owned by Wilson. To the east, it's 95 feet to the adjacent property owners Wilson and Alexander, and 205 feet to the nearby property owner Fry. To the south, 350 feet to adjacent 210th Street right-of-way, and to the west, 65 feet to adjacent property owner Van Wy. The 12 property owners within 500 feet of the McRoberts parcel have been notified in writing of public hearing. As of March 2nd, and as of today, really, now March 6th, the Planning and Zoning Office has not received contact from any of the notified property owners. The conditional use permit process includes a review and recommendation from the Woodbury Zoning Commission. I've alluded to that document. You have it in front of you. It was passed out this evening. The Zoning Commission is required to review the application, report its findings with recommendation to your Board of Adjustment. For the ordinances, the Zoning Commission's recommendation was limited to only a determination of each of the standards found within ordinance subsection 2.02-9.f will be met. You should note that the application itself, which is included in your packet, also contains the applicant's response to how the applicant believes each of those same standards can be met. Upon receiving the Commission's recommendation, your board is required to hold a public hearing on the application and render a decision. We provided you with the printout shows 12 items. I guess it's worth noting information about the parcel, the respective aerials, and the site on the mapping, and we'll get to that. The interest in this thing, you'll note, is a good portion of the parcels in a Zone A special flood hazard area. You know that as a under your floodplain. When the house was constructed some years ago, it was placed in a location location on the parcel was outside the floodplain. Subsequent to that time, the McRoberts applied for and were granted a letter of map amendment from FEMA, removing the area where they built the accessory structure and some area around it. That's not relative to what the question is tonight, but I wanted you to be aware that a good piece of this parcel, as well as the other parcels, are in the floodplain, and all the structures, the map doesn't represent the amendments, because the map doesn't change, but all the other houses in the Hinkle edition, their locations have been removed from the respective floodplain. The floodplain, the use applied for is not impacted by the floodplain because you can place vehicles, movable structures and vehicles in the floodplain. The theory being you can easily remove them if you have a significant flood event coming. So that's not an issue here. We also provided you with a list of all the property owners that got written the letter basically regarding tonight's hearing. Your board is tasked with holding a public hearing in this manner, deliberating and voting on the approval of the conditional use permitting. Ordinances allow your approval with or without conditions placed on the permitting or to deny the permit issuance. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and I'm going to withhold any type of staff recommendation if you want it until after I hear all the public hearing testimony.
I do have a question. Are there any restrictions or covenants in place when that subdivision was filed?
Kurt Hinkle was the developer in this particular instance, and he did not record any covenants. To my knowledge, subsequent thereto, there's no active homeowners association, nor have they adopted bylaws and covenants since the last lot was sold.
If I'm correct on this, the aerial view doesn't show Jenna Wilson's house.
That's because the aerial was 2014, her house was constructed thereafter.
And that's just to the north, away from the road then,
Yes.
correct?
What's that property to the east? There's a shed, and when I was out there, there was a trailer.
That's Kelly Fry.
Okay.
Yeah. Affordable self-storage it's called.
It's called what?
He runs, he has a number of buildings. He's personal storage. I don't think this is used for personal storage. There are a couple businesses working out of there. It goes back to, I think it might go back prior to,
Zoning?
this location used to be a site for the Sergeant Bluff School
School,
District
uh-huh.
bus barn. And I believe, am I right here, John? Is it Goldsmith? Goldsmith? That was originally his structure where Kelly is now? Yeah. Well, I know the bus barn did, but the.
I don't think that was there, I think that was Donnie Foreman's.
Donnie Foreman, okay. Donnie Foreman, who's still in the neighborhood,
Right.
that was his structure, but it's not relative to this issue other than its distance somewhat from.
That in the same zoning?
That's in the ag estate, isn't it? That's
No, that's not in the
What's not?
subdivision. It is not. And it was constructed at a time when Mr. Foreman met the ag exemption. He wasn't.
good.
And then it was purchased by someone who doesn't meet the ag exemption. And it might be debatable whether the use should be taken through a conditional use permit process. We're not pressing that now because we understand a house will shortly be built on that same parcel in front of or to the side of
The big
the
shed.
existing structure.
Uh-huh.
Really?
And then any use inside would be able to qualify under the same home occupation standards.
Good.
Okay, any other questions from the board? I'll open it up to comments. There's somebody here to represent McRoberts in favor of this permit? No one? Do you have any comments you want to add to it, or? You can state your name and address for the record.
Dave Stokes and 1482 210th Street. I'm just here to say we don't have a problem with it. I mean, they keep it clean, it's not noisy. I mean, we have trucks go up and down the road all day long anyways. So I just don't have a problem with it.
Thank you.
I'm Brenda Waugh, and I live at Blue and next door to 1459 210th Street.
You live on the house to the east, west?
I'm gonna,
That's
Mr.
okay.
Stokes, the first party that spoke is across the street.
Okay.
Um,
And where there's no house now is where you live?
Nope, my house is there.
Okay.
But to be fair, that one in the middle is also a trucker, so we're not gonna get away from trucks.
You're right here?
Yep, that's my house.
Okay.
Okay. Stokes is over one of these, right, Dave?
Yep.
Right across the
Yep.
road, okay, right there, on the other side of the road.
Okay.
So this is what we're talking about now.
Thank you.
I just wanna say, I've got little kids as well, and they're running back and forth, and I've never had to worry ever about the semi-traffic. They're very respectful, they're very visible, the whole property's clean, we never have any issues at all. And I also am in favor of them getting the permit. So, they're good neighbors, I hate to lose them.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Jenna Wilson, behind to the north of
You're
Nick
up in here,
Roberts.
right, Jenna?
Yep.
Back in here somewhere, can you see that?
1485 210th Street. I would say I'm probably the one that would be most impacted by all of this, and there are no issues. Everything's clean. There's hardly ever trucks or trailers there. Reefers are not noisy enough. My 4-year-old sleeps in the farthest south bedroom, which would be right where it's at.
You look
There are
like
no
you were pretty
issues.
close.
Yeah, so there are no issues. My house is the one you can see pictured in some of their, yes,
Back here?
My question.
so.
Pardon me?
Everything's always clean, everything's well kept, and they are very respectful of the kids playing, and the bus actually now stops right there to get off, so the kids don't have to go across the street, so no issues at all.
Thank you. Looks like we have everybody that's spoken in favor of, and there'll be an opportunity to speak again if it's needed. Is there anybody here that's, has any comments in the contrary or in opposition? Okay. Okay, thank you there for that. And is there any other board comments or questions? I think probably close the public hearing then? Is it, now do you, would you make your,
Questions of staff?
your staff report would come back before that then, correct? Well, let's hear what you, let's hear what you,
I do have a question on the letter that we got from planning and zoning. It said to consider the potential that trailer refrigeration unit operations may adversely impact the neighborhood. What, why? I don't know.
Noise
No.
when the compressors are running?
yeah, I guess that one question I had that I wanted to ask, what do you typically haul or carry in the trucks?
Meat,
Yeah, meat?
the,
Does he need to come for that, or might, just the,
Well, I think it's just a short statement.
yeah, the refrigeration, okay. I didn't know if it was something that was placarded that was considered hazardous materials, or, okay. Sorry about that. Katie.
So they normally are refrigerated then? Okay.
The neighbors say there's no problem with any noise.
They look like fairly modern units, so they're about as quiet as they,
about 17.
yeah, pretty modern, yeah.
You can breathe the air that comes out of the truck.
Astronauts can drink a lot of water too.
You
I would
brag.
recommend it. But,
You're well buffled then, I imagine, yeah.
I kind of cut you off on your question there, I'm sorry about that.
No,
That was about
that's-
it, what,
yeah,
just the
if
planning and
noise
zoning?
was the I didn't know what was insinuated by adverse effect, adverse impact from trailer refrigeration units.
I think there's a
Noise.
pretty broad
Maybe I
net.
can make a little bit of background if you
Yeah.
want.
Sure.
I believe in the zoning commission meeting, I brought up the issue in regard to anything I saw that might be difficult to meet in the home occupation tests outside of the one that's being stated that's being waived on the visibility issue. And obviously, there's a catch-all in the home occupation test language in item number 6, where it refers to, noise issues in regard to, the operation of any equipment that produces noise. But then it gets into subjectivity towards the tail end of that sentence where it says determined to be noxious, offensive, or hazardous. Obviously, some of that is very subjective.
Geese in the backyard are more obnoxious.
Yeah. So I'm just looking out for the McRoberts really, because, obviously, if we get phone calls from any of the neighbors, including some of the neighbors in the room, that there's a noise issue, what I might consider to be obnoxious, may be completely different than what you might think, and maybe McRoberts would think something even different from me. So, just so you're ready for that in regard to these. I haven't gone out and listened to the reapers, 3 o'clock in the morning on a spring night when you have windows open, so I get the sense here you trust the McRoberts, and they're gonna treat the neighborhood right, and if that's the case, I would have, based upon what I've heard tonight and what I know, although historically, most of the complaints we get about trucking operations come at those open window nights when the reefer unit is running and something's parked right outside the window somewhere. So,
Currently, what percentage of the time do you have loaded reefers there? Or do you have the units running even when they're empty, or just?
No, just when they're loaded. Sometimes I'll be passing through and staying over the night, and I'll be hooked with it. It'll run that. For the most part, 5% of the time.
Pardon me? 5%, okay.
The people that bought that other parcel, they're going to build there? So do they get a letter? Or they're not here?
well, he's a trucker too.
What's that?
He's a trucker.
Oh, he's a,
When Brenda was up here, she said that empty parcel, he's a trucker as well.
okay, I must have missed that, I'm sorry. With regard to noise, if it becomes a problem, there are noise monitors that you can, and there's levels that are considered,
The DNR has
Different.
gotten away from that, and obviously Woodbury County is not invested in monitors.
the DOT could loan you one.
But,
Well, I imagine, because we had,
I'm hoping we never get to that point.
yeah, well, there's,
If you grant this, including the reefer capability, I have no problem with that. I mean, we'll deal with the complaint if we ever get one, based upon the facts and circumstances at the time. We'll do it that way.
Now, will there be anything,
I just want the McRoberts to know that the noxious part, number 6,
Arbitrary.
is not something we're considering to be waived here. You still have to meet that test under the home occupation.
noxious fumes from the,
Anything determined to be a nuisance, you're not exempt from. Yeah, you've got the capability of having the reefers there and use them, but it's up to, I guess, the neighborhood and whoever they come to at the county to determine whether or not you flunk that test. It doesn't sound like we're gonna get the complaints, nor does it sound like, from what you tell me about how quiet things are, that we would determine they be a nuisance.
Since our meeting, a year ago or whatever it was, we had to be California compliant. California doesn't allow anything loud or anything that has emissions. And we updated it when. Your pickup's probably louder than my truck.
is there, and this is just a vague question, say one of the neighbors were to sell their property and a new purchaser were to come in, and when they were investigating buying the property, there happened to be no trucks around. So if a new neighbor were to come in, would that open the door for anything different, or once this is already in
I'll tell you
person?
what we can do in that regard is,
basically be on their property though, but so that it wouldn't be, that the neighbor would
It
be
might
aware.
not show up,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's there, public record. I think when you record it, you could list on, maybe apply it to just the Hinkle edition, it might show up in everybody's abstract, but only,
It'd be kind of costly to update everybody's abstract though, wouldn't it? Or would that be just be?
well, what happens is the abstract would have to be continued, and they
Okay.
pick up the resolution when it was continued, so at least they'd see that before they close it on the sale.
Might not be a bad idea.
I'm not saying it's a concern, it's just something that, you know,
They know it was dealt with and it's,
Most-
everybody's,
most people, if they're gonna research buying a home, they're gonna look and see what's next door and take it all into
the
consideration.
point was if they don't see it there, you know, and if it shows up in an abstract review, it'll be brought to their attention.
That's up to you whether you want to put that condition on any approval.
Just a curiosity.
Would
So-
the owner would have to do that, or would,
We require it
We-
to be done.
we require it to be done.
We require a copy, a recorded copy of the resolution in our file.
Is there a cost to that?
Minor, probably $15-20 a month.
Per,
Probably a 1 or 2 page document would be the applicant's responsibility.
would it be on file with the subdivision records? Because
No,
that's a
the
parcel.
end part. I think it's whatever they put in the cover page in regard to where you want it to.
if there's no restrictions or ordinances part of that, or covenants part of that housing area.
No, but if you
the
attach
intent
this
seemed to be-
abstract, or to the subdivision that you're talking about, this record of this meeting attached to the subdivision document,
We can still-
that you don't have to avoid the abstract, or it's just there. When an attorney reads it, here's a subdivision, these are the things that,
Is there such a thing as just an existing placed into that?
no?
Well, I mean, we can get a copy of the recorded resolution in our subdivision file, but that's only gonna be picked up if somebody buying a lot calls in and say, hey, what can you tell us about the subdivision? And then it's in there to jog our memory as well as subsequent employees of the department.
But how would putting that in his abstract for his parcel, if I bought the property, the parcel next door to it, I'd never know about it.
You might not, but it depends on how that thing gets recorded. I don't know if there's a mechanism in place.
I don't see it
How
being
far
a
you
big
can go to
deal.
notify people around
Well, an
you.
abstract is unique to a parcel, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't see it being a big, I guess I just don't see it being a big thing. I mean,
We don't require, typically, we
Yeah,
don't
just-
require resolution.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
It's the only way I can see to protect anybody.
yeah. What does the property owner think about it? Do you want to do that or not?
I'm not sure exactly what you're saying.
We're talking about a process by which we can get notification to somebody buying property around you, and how best to do that so it happens automatically. Because there's really not a mechanism where we get to buyers before they buy unless they call us. We don't know sales are gonna occur until after the deed's actually been recorded. So sometimes we're the last ones in the mix.
And that might almost be something to visit the planning and zoning about, maybe make a future amendments to the planning and zoning that may be done. Hey,
The ordinances.
yeah, the ordinance is part of it for future stuff, but, you know, I don't know. I guess I just thought about that, but it's just so much of that buyer beware. I mean, if I'm gonna buy a house, you know, most people, I think, are gonna look around and research the neighborhood a little bit, so
But then
I
it'd
don't
be
see it being,
restrictions and covenants associated with the subdivision.
yeah.
You know,
I would
this is-
think, but I know it doesn't happen as much as it should. I would think anybody who's buying a lot that is surrounded by other lots that have significantly sized
Outbuildings, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's where I'm going.
Ask.
Be well.
It's
Not like it's
something
hidden
that's
or
hidden there.
anything, it's right out in open,
Sometimes
so.
they don't check and they have no
It
idea.
just depends on what the people are like that you're dealing with.
I guess that does raise the question, are you planning to have a sign saying what your business is?
Business.
Yeah.
And you're already at the restricted height limit, correct? You have 3 trucks now? So that we don't have to worry about any additional trucks.
Well, you can see there's other limitations in home occupation use tests that limit employees.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things. So it kind of self-controls itself from getting too big.
Wherever you want.
And he's applied for 3, and you can have 3 non-resident
Employees. I guess, yeah, 'cause I have a very similar setup directly across the road from me, and it's never been a problem. It's just not. But that's just me, so.
We have dozens, if not hundreds, of these truckers in rural Woodbury County that
Not to
bring
mention,
anything home from the tractor unit to the tractor trailer.
plus farmers, that, you know, the same thing.
And they are doing, most of them are doing ag stuff, and so it's hard to separate the ag from the actual trucking for hire business outside of ag.
I would say unless the property owner wants to do it, just not even deal with it.
Yeah, it would be difficult, if we force the requirement, we're probably putting ourselves in a place to have to make sure it happens consistently.
Yeah.
It would be difficult to follow through on a lot of things.
I think this is the point where you close the public hearing and deliberate, which we've already started doing, so we'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. And opposed, same sign. So, any additional thoughts, or?
I'd move we grant the conditional use permit as presented.
I'll second the
Does anybody want to reference to the planning and zoning on that last part, that, you
I
know,
want to take you through their two
Yeah.
conditions.
Okay.
I think that we need to make sure that,
So the record reflects we discussed them
Okay.
and found that based upon the testimony, they either didn't apply or were dealt with.
and like I said, I didn't have this prior to, and I didn't read through it thoroughly, but I want to make sure that any potential hazardous loads are not allowed. Is that you
Basically,
guys
all of
agree?
these conditions all need to be met,
So we
right?
need to follow this. Is that in here?
Well, you really don't have to do that but what happens if he fails, he gets through this and he doesn't have to meet the one test, doesn't mean he doesn't have to meet any of the other ones. They could still be in violation by not meeting some of the other, any of those tests. I just want to make sure we are dealing with one, we've received testimony that there will not be hazardous materials. That's what I heard. So that issue kind of drops off the table.
How's that?
Well, I mean, if it's hazardous materials on, I mean, you can put a condition in there, no hazardous materials.
Yeah, because it really doesn't say anything about hazardous materials in here, other
There is some,
on 6.
Yeah, number 6,
yes, six,
Equipment
be
fire.
noxious, offensive, or hazardous.
or hazardous. Again, a subjective term. So we're protected there already, to some
Okay.
degree, by the ordinances.
Offensive or hazardous. Yeah,
We
and
are-
hazardous is predefined by the placards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not saying that you'll be hauling for BPI or whoever you're hauling for forever, but, you know, if somewhere down the line you start hauling for a fuel company, and, you know, I guess I don't want to see fuel tankers sitting there.
Well, that's maybe a
That would-
question to ask.
And that would fall under the placard. You know the DOT standards, what fuel, it's placarded as hazardous or flammable, isn't it?
Yeah, and any hazardous chemical is hazardous material.
That would be the one thing I would want to make sure that we emphasized on. And it doesn't, well, I'm looking for flammable, and I don't see that, so. But that would be the one thing I wouldn't want to see anything that would be a potential harm for the neighborhood, especially, like we're saying, everybody feels comfortable having their kids running around, and, you know, God forbid, accidents do happen, and, you know, so that's something that I would, and you may be the perfect person to say this, and I think placarding is our best definition of what would fall outside of that. Right now, as long as there's, I think the ORD is other regulated materials. I mean, if there's, you have to carry no placards at all with meat, refrigerated meat, correct?
No.
Would there be any?
I have placard holders on my trailer.
So would there be any type of a load that would fall outside of that? could a person say any placarded loads? Would that be fair? I think you know what I'm looking for.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, we just don't call anything hazardous.
Yeah, but how would a person define that? I mean, for us to say that, if, pardon me? Yeah, I guess that's what I'm looking, as the DOT would set the definition.
Anything that falls under the guidelines of hazardous materials has to have placards.
Okay, that's what,
So everybody around that knows what they put in there, if it's flammable or explosive.
and since this just says hazardous, I'd like to have something by DOT definition then. Maybe that would probably cover it. Any DOT defined hazardous material.
That'd be a condition to the approval.
But and maybe a further explanation or further refinement of number 6. Because, I mean, I don't know, hazardous is pretty broad, but if it's a DOT term or definition, then I think we'd be covered by it.
You say no hazardous placard.
DOT definition, I think would probably cover it, because if it's defined by the DOT, then it'd have to be placarded.
Right.
Okay, does that work for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I don't think that puts any
We
undue,
don't need produce, that's all we do.
yeah, I don't think that does any undue hardship for you. Several years down the line, something may change, and if you still have this conditional use to do trucking there, I want to make sure that we're covered.
And I think there have it is, you're never gonna, I gotta ask a question about tank cars or tank trailers.
I guess it's what they haul. I guess I'm more concerned about the load.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could be hauling milk for wells one day, and that falls in a tank car. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't see any problems
So
with
you're not
that.
putting a condition on this that there's no.
No, I use that as a broad term for, fuel trailers, I guess.
So we got one proposed condition.
DOT standard hazardous material,
Come up
defined.
with some language that fits.
And you also want to say that there was testimony at the hearing that the operations are believed by all the adjacent property owners that they will not adversely impact the neighborhood or something like that.
Yeah,
I
so-
think we've got all the statements on record, we've got, an audio of that, so. No,
No.
we're just talking about make sure the minutes reflect the neighborhood comments.
So, and this will already be covered in our conditional use, this section 414?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that
That's how we got to
that
this.
doesn't need to be addressed then?
No, the fact that it's on page 32 and it's a conditional use, the definitions define how this truck terminal operation is different from others.
Okay. So currently, we have a motion and a second,
Yeah.
and can we attach that DOT standard or definition of hazardous?
It's more of a federal standard than a DOT, but I think hazardous materials, it's a federal requirement, I believe.
I'm not well versed.
Well, we can-
I'll
Yeah.
have to do a
If-
little research
if-
to come up with some language.
Yeah, like, hazardous as defined by the DOT, since it is a trucking setup, I think that would satisfy
We could do
me.
it this way, or we could do it from another angle, saying only tractor trailer units storing meat and produce.
I'd be fine with that.
All
I'd be-
hauls.
I'd be fine with
We
that.
don't want to restrict you from giving you flexibility if you end up hauling something else that isn't meat and produce.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that that's necessary. I think we just say, all federal and
Yeah,
state
just-
definitions of,
Yeah,
No placard
Yeah.
required materials, no placard required
yeah,
materials.
which covers the DOT,
By
because
DOT, yeah.
if it's hazardous, it has to be placarded. So if we define the hazardous part by DOT standards, we should be eliminating any type of placards.
No
Which,
placard
then you can
required.
haul milk, or you can haul cardboard boxes, or you can haul anything you want.
A year ago, I was hauling tank cars, I hauled food grade material, but
Yeah, so yeah, loads can change. but-
Mark may have a copy of that manual in his office, Mark Nara.
I'm sure it will be, then we'll end up with a 20-page resolution.
Well,
So we have a motion in a second, then you're
Oh,
covered with the
yeah.
language on it?
Not not yet,
Yep.
but I'll get there.
As it's worded, how do we want the motion made then?
Well, basically, what I'm hearing is a motion to approve for the 3 items that are listed.
Right.
The size,
The location
the
Number of
location,
trucks.
and the number of trucks.
and then specific reference to the
Employee
reefer,
vehicles.
or the refrigeration units
Yeah.
are, that's in your motion, as I understand it, with the one condition tied to the placard issue. The only other question I have, is this a fixed time, or is this permanent?
I thought about that if the person, 10 years down the line, if something changed, you need to reapply, but that's kind of, I guess I would look at staff recommendations for that.
And we've never, I mean, I can only think in the last 15 years, we've done it on one conditional use. Put a time limit on it where if they wanted to continue, they had to come back and reapply. I'm not saying do it here. I'm just saying, hey, this is our first kind of sojourn into
Testing the water.
this particular use, because the ordinance has just changed in the last year.
So it'd be related to the owner and his business? and-
I feel so comfortable with the neighborhood, I'm hesitant to even bring it up, but, it's a,
Would the condition stay with the owners or would it stay with the property?
the condition stays with the property, not the owner.
I'd say as long as
Property.
if you wanted to cover that, it'd be as long as they reside at that address, because
So
they
what I'm getting at, do you feel comfortable enough that, do you want the neighborhood to have the opportunity to be heard again after they've had a year or 2 or 3 of experience?
Makes
That's the only thing that I'm raising, just so we discussed it. I'm not saying do it,
Right.
but
I'm more concerned about a subsequent owner, maybe operating in a different manner.
just to,
you have to still meet all these tests and the placard thing and all that.
Right.
Might
I'm
add-
not
add-
inclined to put a time limit.
that
No,
might
I'm not
diminish the
inclined to
value
have
of
a
the
time
property if we
limit.
start putting too many restrictions on it, so.
I just want to, once that business is not there, that wouldn't be applicable to the property.
Yeah, somebody would have to come in and do the same exact thing.
They'd have to do it all over
Same
again.
limitations,
Yeah.
same conditions to operate under that.
So this is just for that owner and that operation,
For the property.
for the property,
Yeah.
while that operation is going on.
For that.
See,
property.
It
For
should,
the property,
Yeah, it
as
should-
long as any subsequent owner lives in the house.
all these same restrictions are on it. If 10 years down the line, if they want to, they're set up for a trucking operation, they want to sell their business, it would take away some buyers, possibly, if we put too many restrictions, if they had to go through it. The next board might
Okay.
not be as friendly as we are.
It seems a little
If
silly.
Yeah.
somebody else came in and wanted to do more than 3, they'd have to come back.
Yep,
If
okay.
they wanted to have employee vehicles outside with the tractor trailer here, they'd have to come back.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to look for the motion the way it was presented, and then if somebody wants to add something or change it, then we'll do that route. So we have
The motion still contains the condition of the non-placard required
Yeah.
utility child.
Yeah.
Right, just wanna make sure.
so we have that motion, do we have a second?
Isn't that? Yeah.
She's already seconded.
So we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign?
Didn't hear all the ayes.
Is that 5-0?
Yeah, I think so. So with that, it wasn't exactly a quick, direct route, but I think we got there where you guys needed to be, so John
I
will
feel comfortable.
we'll take care of the paperwork and get that taken care of, so you
My
should be
job
good to
is
go.
help you guys see if it makes sense before we have the chairman sign.
I hope you understand where I was looking for that. It's more to protect, it's just it shouldn't cost you anything to do it that route. So,
Thanks
Well,
for your patience.
your neighborhood stick up for you. You should, hopefully you appreciate that, because usually it's the other way around and more of a chorus of opposition, so your neighborhood speaks well for you. So thank you.
We need a motion to adjourn.
We need a couple more agenda items. Anybody? Yep, thank you. We need to hear from any other persons on any other non-agenda items. And it looks like they're all leaving, so we don't have that. Then number 7 is any board member comment or inquiry. And I guess for that, I would like to,
Any issues out there that we need to know about?
I'd like to ask for any kind of staff comments that may come before or after the meeting. I mean, if there's anything that you have in mind, or,
Nothing, I mean, unless you want to know what's going on on 6th floor.
Well, we don't have to have that.
Let's-
be part of the
No, that-
meeting.
Let's adjourn the meeting and then talk about it.
Can I shut it off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna look for a motion, and then here.
I'll make a
I don't know
motion.
where this sheet came from, but that must have
Can
been
we,
off the
can we
back.
make a motion to adjourn the meeting? I
Yeah. We're
I
gonna
will
have-
make it a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.